Start off with some big news coming in. A day ahead of the Biden-Putin summit in Geneva, a Kremlin statement has detailed the agenda of the meeting. A Kremlin aide saying that the agenda and format of the summit has been finalized in the phone call with the U.S. Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He has added that it is less likely that a wide range of long-standing issues between the two countries will get resolved, and that deals will be struck during the talks. However, the U.S. and Russian sides both have decided to still view the meeting with practical optimism, quote-unquote. The Kremlin aide has added that Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden may discuss imprisoned Russian and U.S. nationals. Apart from this, other topics of discussion including nuclear stability, climate change, and cyber security. Ahead of the summit with Joe Biden, Russian President Vladimir Putin has spoken to American news channel NBC, responding to the allegations that have been leveled by the United States. In the interview, Putin refused that Russia was behind the cyber attacks on the United States. He dismissed the accusations as being farcical and baseless.
Mr. President, are you waging a cyber war against America?
Where is the evidence? Where is proof? It's becoming farcical. We know it well. We have been accused of all kinds of things: election interference, cyber attacks, and so on and so forth. And not one time did they bother to produce any kind of evidence or proof. Just unfounded accusation.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden is expected to address the recent ransomware attack on meat producer JBS, along with the increased threat of cyber attacks during the meeting.
You know, the simplest thing to do would be for us to sit down calmly and agree on joint work in cyberspace. We are willing to engage with international participants, including the United States. You are the ones who have refused to engage in joint work. What people can be afraid of in America, the very same thing can be a danger to us. U.S. is a high-tech country. NATO has declared cyberspace an area of combat. That means they are planning something. They are preparing something. So obviously, this cannot but worry us.
When asked about imprisoned political opponent Alexey Navalny, Putin refused to say Navalny's name or guarantee that he would be released from prison alive.
The person that you have mentioned, the same kind of measures will apply, not in any way worse than to anybody else who happens to be in prison.
Remember, the summit in Geneva is taking place at a time when the bilateral relationship has plunged to its lowest point in the last 2 decades.
Let us sit down together, talk, look for compromise solutions that are acceptable for all the parties. That is how stability is achieved.
And our correspondent Daria Bondachuk is now joining us live from Moscow for more on these developments. Daria, our Kremlin aide now also hinting at the issues that are on the table, including Alexey Navalny and the issue of cybersecurity. Give us a better sense of what the two sides would hope to achieve at the end of these talks.
Well, we are not expecting some major breakthroughs, although there is talk of possible prisoner exchange. That is people accused of espionage. Russia has 2 former U.S. Marines arrested in prison here, and while we've seen the name of one mentioned, at the same time another prisoner, Paul Whelan, is not so far on the list. The Russian Foreign Minister representative earlier said today. We do indeed hope that this meeting, first in many years, where the two leaders will be able to properly sit down and have a conversation face to face on many issues and many differences and different approaches the two countries have on issues like global security, cyber security, on the conflicts in the Middle East and in Asia. We hope that the two leaders will be able to achieve, to at least exchange views and openly discuss their stances, their understandings of the global stability situation and the areas in which they can cooperate. We know that, as you've just heard sound bites from the interview with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden earlier, there could be one of the points of discussion could be alleged Russian hacking into the U.S. and European elections previously. There could be discussion of Russian meddling in Ukraine. There could be discussion about Russia's potential development of advanced weapons and its placement in areas sensitive to the NATO alliance. However, one important thing we've heard from earlier meeting of the NATO members that there was basically a lack of a statement on the admission of Ukraine into NATO, which could be a red line for the Kremlin. It was indicated as such by the Russian president earlier when he spoke at a public event, saying that Russia cannot imagine how, if Ukraine is admitted to NATO, how the NATO missiles could reach Russian targets within minutes, and that would be a red line that Moscow is indicating that would be too dangerous to cross. So we do expect that there will be de-escalation and a sort of global security and stability in Europe and over the globe, in fact. We have seen some harsh rhetoric in previous years between Moscow and Washington, sanctions and counter-sanctions being posed. But as we heard from President Joe Biden, US President earlier, saying that he is not looking for confrontation, but that he will say and make his points across and make sure that Russia understands that it will bear consequences if it engages in further aggressive behavior.
Right. Also give us a better sense of the reaction from the Russian leadership over the last few hours to the statements that have been made by the world leaders, both at the G7 summit and the NATO summit, vis-a-vis Russia. Even the tone and tenor even Biden's tone and tenor during his reference to the Russian president, calling him an autocrat.
Well, we haven't seen immediate reaction to that particular statement, but we have seen also and heard from the U.S. President speaking about Russian President Vladimir Putin, naming him a worthy adversary, a strong and a tough man. And there has been some respectful statements from the Russian president towards his American counterpart. So this indicates that possibly the two leaders see each other as even, and that there is this dialogue happening. It is an important point indeed, because both leaders have agreed that bilateral relations are at the lowest point in many years, and both understand the need to sort of advance from that, to move away from that, in order to ensure that there is global security and stability in many areas in which both countries could be seen as key players, and possibly finding some common grounds, if not of complete understanding, but as U.S. President Joe Biden put it, an accommodation of positions in areas such as cybersecurity in Syria and other sensitive crises around the globe, where both Russia and U.S. could play some productive part in terms of conflict settlement.
Daria, I appreciate very much you're joining us with those details and inputs, leaving it there for the moment.